Alright, let us continue with Surah 24 verse 35. We get to where we read that وَلَوْ تَمْتَسْهُ نَارٌ, that the olive oil tree, the baruka or blessed olive oil tree is not touching the fire source. And from there we get to talk about the fourth corner of the Christ, four cornerstone of وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. No, there is anyone on the kaffa or on the pan or on the level, scale level or the pan of the Creator, the Most High God, the only one God, that nothing touches him or he is in his level. And then I said that we have the four corners of the four cornerstone, and that is the Christ or the third eye that opens to Allahi infinity or the throne. And this is basically the most important thing that connects, or we can call it the event horizon of the Allahi white hole, that through the arc or the event horizon or the Isa Messiah iris is connected to the creation. And so in a way we can say the entire creation through the ark, in him, for him, through him, as we read in Colossians 1, through Christ, in Christ, for Christ, is connected to the Creator. This is the right hand of God, or this is the third eye, or the right hand here means lower part. When we are talking about the creation, right hand is always higher than the right hand, and so in this case the right hand means that he is at the right hand or the immediate periphery underneath the throne. And from there we get to talk about the tabuta fihi sakinata, and this tabut is Christ, or ark of Allah, or vineyard of Allah, gardener, into which we are planted. By we, I'm talking about the ones that are written in the book of life. And so this kitab, or the book, or the tabut, or the tabe is basically inside it is what we have it as manna, or mennat of Allah, or the fruit of tree of life. That is mennat of Allah that allows the creation to yasjudan, van najm wa shajar yasjudan, to worship him. And also to the ones that are outside, he gives them manna or mennat, or favor or grace of God, or mani of God, or a sperm of him. And then they are allowed to come into the laws, or the two tablets, or the two scatani parts of the lowest Deidur disc of the Christ Kabe Cube Kibotos, which means Kabe or Cube or Kibotos, or the box of God. And then in addition to that, on inside it we have the staff of Aaron, that is 10 cubita in width, which is the diameter of this acacia shoots, or diameter of the salsabil shaft, or the candlestick shaft, through which, or the rakia, or the salsabil, through which the shalom shower gets to the molten sea, and from there, from the Christ terminal, from there it is portal periscope porched into where we are in the hellhole at the night. And so that's where the we have the Tabut or the Kaaba, inside whom is the Shekinah. And so a Shekinah dwelling, or the tranquility, or the serenity, or calmness of the Allah Yar or Yaru Salam, or the peace of Yar, or the friend, or the companion. And so one of the things about the Christ, one of the names of the Christ that are in addition to Lugat of Allah, or Logos of Allah, or Kalimatullah, or claim of God, or proclamation of God, which means word of God. One of them is that I wanted to emphasize is the taqwa, or kalimatul taqwa, or kalimatullah. And then taqwa means qubbat, or qubba, or kivity, or kivity in Hebrew, that we have it, as well as the root word is qawa, or qubbat, or qubba. And then from here we get to kivity. Also we have the tiqwa, and then the tiqwa means hoping, waiting, wanting, willpowering, the desire power for wanting the love Lord. And that is the name of the Christ. And as we are going to look, Kalimat Taqwa is where the Shekinah is, or the proclamation of Taqwa, kivity, hope, or the word of hope, or is where the is another name of Christ. And inside whom we have the Shekinah, Sakinat of Allah. And so these are the verses in which we are talking about the Christ, Kaaba, or Kibotos, and again the or the lamp of God in Surah 24 verse 35. And then here we have those names that of Christ that I want to emphasize on it. His name is Word of Tranquility, or Word of Tranquility, or the Word of Peace and Serenity. Some people call it as Tiqwa, as the fear of God, or God conscious, which is true, but at a higher level it is not necessarily fear of God, although it is fear of God, but at the same time it is quwwat of God, or the power of God, or the strength that God gives to your heart to be able to forbear the hardship of your mind, and the weight of your mind, and so that is called Kalimat Taqwa, or Qubbat. And so we are going to look at these verse. As for Surah 9 verse 40, I have kind of translated this one, and so we're going to talk about it in detail later on, but as for the Surah 48, we are going to look at this Christ Kaaba Kibotos name. And so when in Revelation 3 verse 18 is talking about the garment of faith that is purified in fire, that also is what we call it as the garment of taqwa. And garment of taqwa, I think, is mentioned in maybe higher. Let's start from 10, and then we will find it here. here we have lebas or lebosh in Hebrew.
وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى.
This is the taqwa, or the righteousness, or God consciousness, God awareness. By that awareness, two healthy things happen. One is fear of God, and the other one is love of God, love to God, or which are both sides of the same coin, two sides of the same coin. And so taqwa is the clothing of the righteousness. This is the garment of faith that saves the believers from hellfire or the sorrow. And so, and this is what Adam and Eve receive after they realize that they don't have religion of God or Christ or taqwa or the righteousness or hope to Allah or the strength to Allah or dependence on Allah or righteousness, righteous wait for Allah, or forbearance, force, basically for God. And so I'm going to talk about work on this. And so first of all, in here we read that, and Allah sent down his tranquility upon his men. And this is one of the wars of Prophet Muhammad with Anakims, or the giants, the gurus of the Ganesha or Thoth. And then over there Allah sends his tranquility. Who is tranquility of Allah? Sakinatahu or Shekinah. Or this, who is the Shekinah of Allah? The dwellings of Allah is happening inside his Christ, Kaaba, Kibotos, or lamp of God. That's where the fire source is. Okay, and then so this Sakina or this tranquility is what in the wars, in the shamanic supernatural wars, again, these are not ordinary people. These are the mushroom eating shamans that can lift up easily 65 tons of the stones, 65 ton stones. And again, the most powerful of them is this Belzebabi baboon, the Mr. President, retard president of the democratic joke that we call it democracy or whatever. Mr. Barack Baboon Obama, chimpanzee of the end time jungle. And so Prophet Muhammad is surrounded by those kind of gurus from this orangutan, and over there he's been fighting with them, and over there Allah sends Christ down to him. So what does it mean, anzala? It means that from the ark, from the debir or the oracle or the holy of the holies, Allah sends down his halo, his rainbow, his corona, his nimbus, or his Christ, or his event horizon, or the middle wing ring row of the four creatures, four Israfili seraphims, or Karubi cherubs, down into Eskatoni, door of the heaven. That's the meaning of Anzala. And then once he comes down, Christ, then the Christ or the seventh thunder sits on the 20th mount, and then he overarches over the Galilee, Dead Sea, or the night, and then from there the Misbah starts shining, or the Son of Man in his true form, or the Mahisha Surah in his true form, that is full of tranquility and peace of heart is coming. And what is the peace of heart? That's where the creator or the owner of the fu'ad, or the deepest part of our psyches, or what we call it as the nataf, is residing. And so that's where Prophet Muhammad, the messenger, and the believers who are fighting with him, and these are not ordinary believers. Again, these are like people like Salman Farsi or Ali ibn Abi Talib. These are the mushroom eating, manna eating, psilocybin eating Sufis, or the Zoroastrian Magi's, or the Christian masters who are eating body of Christ with Prophet Muhammad, and then they are in that war, and so they are again the very special type of elite of the believers who know about the secrets of the unseen. And so at that time, then Allah sends down angels, or basically the Christ, or the Shekinah, or the Christ Kabe Kibotos, or Teba, or Tabut, opens his mouth, and then from the mouth or the opening, or the door, or the door or the window of the ark of Noah, and that is floating as the sweet ocean inside the salt ocean, or the hellhole, he wards out the angels. Again, these are the water worded angels that are coming out, Revelation 1:18. When we are looking at it here, we see that from his and his mouth went a sharp double-edged sword, and his countenance was shining like a here, and his voice as the sound of the many waters. These are the words, or the waters, or the sweet cascade of the angels that are falling, and these are the angels that are helping the Prophet Muhammad to fight with the maggots that Enki has created in the Babel pit, the Ramarem fanning reptiles, and the Magi's, the Bodhisattvas, and are sort of the digits, or the Atef crowns, or Deshreti crowns of the higher Egypt, lower Egypt, or the higher part of the Siddim Valley, lower part, all of them. And then va'azzaba, and Allah punished these Baha'i baboons that were surrounding the Prophet Muhammad, and that is the recompense of these filthy Samadhi scumbags, always. And so this is where the Shekinah is, okay. And then we have this Shekinah in addition to verse 26 in verse 4 and 18. And so verse 4, here we can see again the same thing is repeated, and Allah is the one who sends his Christ, or his box of tranquility, or the coffin of tranquility, where his dwellers, or Sakina or Shekinah, is in Christ. And then the seventh thunder comes and puts one of his leg at one side and the other one at the other side. Here, this is the Shekinah that and he had in his a little book, and he set his right foot upon the Dead Sea Galilee, and his left foot on the surface, or this is the second earth, or the Malakut, or the Felukai film, or the Yabeshi dry land that we already talked about it, where our pots or souls are placed. And so after that, the Christ or the moonshine of the Christ, or the Shekinah glory of the Christ, comes into the heart of the believers, and then their iman or amen, immune or safety or faith was increased, was ahura mazda, yazdadu, it was azdiyaded with ahur or hur, or the white wolves that we read before, or sha'airullah. And then we say, and for Allah is the junud, or the hosts, or the sabauts, and this one is basically junud is what comes also. We have the hosts of the heaven and earth, and also we have the hosts of part of the hell that is given to Satan, and those are called Gundi or Chundi. Chundi is one of the names of the Satan, or dark dragon. Gundi, Junud means soldier, host. Gunde, Gande, or the deterring smell, anything that is deterring, repelling. And so for Allah is the repellent angels of the heaven and earth, that just these pharaonic farts that are coming out of the vanity valve, and are like the yeasts of the vagina of the Gailanic mind. These bacteria and these yugi farts, basically they are kind of the air ventilation turns on, and then they are sucked or repelled into where the hell they come from. And so this is again Tabut al-Sakinata, okay? And then we have the Tabut al-Sakinata in, I think, number 26 of this one. Yeah, but before that, let's get to verse 18. That was one Christ. This is another case. And so, and as Allah was mercied, or raziya, merziya, marziya, the Allah upon the believers, and then he pledged allegiance to you under who? This shajarata, this is the Christ, okay? And then this is the tree of knowledge of good that we read in Genesis 2:9. This cascade, this moonshine, this exposure of the white wolves of the Christ is called the shajarat, from which Adam and Eve started putting camel wools around themselves, just like John the Baptist that in wilderness or in the hellhole dips a locust, manna, mushroom in the honey, and then he eats and wraps camel wool around himself. That's precisely what they are doing. And this is the shajar, this is the tree of knowledge of good, or this is the as-sirat, or the bridge of crossing, or double-edged sword that comes out of the mouth, or the voice wand that comes out of the mouth, or the face, or the eye, or the heart, or the disc that we call him Christ, okay? And then, or the lamp of God, and then, or the crying bulb glass that is mentioned in Surah 24:35. We call it Misbah of Sabaot, like the barrack of the soldiers that we have. In the same way we say Misbah of Sabaot, or Subh, or the morning daybreaking lamp of the Sabaot, deterring, sabbaing, bursting, outflowing. soldiers or the army of God or the angels of the light, the angels of day that are coming to fight with the dark Durga Devi forces of the death, the scientists, the orangutans that are making viruses around in order to make sure that Ayatollah Khamenei or Sayyid Khorasani and Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, my boss, my terrorist boss, or we call it Sayyid Yamani, the best two soldiers of Christ are going so that they don't attack to the Israel. Anyway, and they pledge alliance. Any kind of alliance will happen under the this shajara, and this shajara is 144,000 cubita high, or the eighth sky, above the Malakut or the Falukai film or the Yabesh dry earth that is mentioned in Genesis 1:9. That is under the solar ceiling, the eighth sky, and above that we have the tree of knowledge of good. Again, and one is called Boaz. This is the Boaz shajara or the Boaz pillar, and then tree of knowledge of good, and then we have the tree of knowledge of evil. And then Allah sent upon them Shekinah. Again, we see that Allah has sent down upon them His Shekinah. This Shekinah is, Christ doesn't have any Shekinah of Himself. Christ, whatever Christ has, Christ basically is full of Allah, and then Christ opens His mouth or opens His bosom, or the burning bush sends out fire flashes, the heat that is inside Him, or the oven or the furnace, and that heat is coming from what? Allahi fire source. And that is how the Shekinah or tranquility comes, and the victory, near victory is given to the believers. And so this is the Shekinah, and the Shekinah always comes under the tree of knowledge of good, Husna Hosana, or Tajalli, or Jalla Jalal, or Khair, or beauty. And so now we can talk about the verse that I want to, the word that I want to basically touch on it, and that is taqwa or kiviti. That's another one. That kalimatul taqwa, the same thing that sakina is doing. Kalimatul taqwa or kalimatullah. This is the Shekinah or the hope. Taqwa means tranquility, means righteousness, means peace of the mind, means that you have basically the forbearance, faith, power, because hope, power, or taqwiyat, you have rejuvenated, reinvigorated, you are vigorously strengthened. This is another name of Christ. Anytime during the wars that believers have with these orangutans, Allah sends down the Christ, and the Christ is heavy Christ cloud, and then He globes the malakut around Himself, or nothingness around Himself, because He is the other singularity that comes out of the only one singularity. Or basically He is the moon that is synchronized with the sun, or the now white hole that is ruling over the night, and is synchronized with the sun white hole that is ruling over the day. And that is how the cow cross clock, or the hall of the Galilee, with his Havila, he surrounding, that is full of the blessings of the burning bush. Bosom, disc, breast is synchronized with the Allahi throne and Christ's throne, and the Allahi throne that right on top of him is basically is the hall, or the now moment, or the whole, or Hulle in German, that around him is Hawl al-Arsh, and Hawl al-Arsh, or the Havila, means surrounding, and the ticking time, the ecstasy around the pure now moment, that in which Allah is Shekinah dwelling. And so when we are fighting, and we are fighting in the hellhole, we are basically all that we have is the Christ Shekinah. Let us take a look at this amazing verse.
إذ جعل الذين
كفروا في قلوبهم الحمية حمية الجاهلية فأنزل الله سكينته على رسوله وعلى المؤمنين ألزمهم الكلمة التقوى وكلمته كلمة التقوى, that is Christ, وكانوا أحق بها وأهلها وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. And amazing. Jazakallah khairam. I love the recitation. So when those who disbelieved had put into their hearts chauvinism, and the chauvinism of the time of ignorance, and so now, so this chauvinism is a rubbish translation. Hamiyata, as we said already before, these are the ham, mani padma hom. This is the hamiyat, or the hameat, or hammam, or the heat. It is not necessarily
chauvinism.
This is not only ta'assub or chauvinism or ultranationalism or that kind of rubbish. This is in fact what we call it as let me bring it here. I can bring it quickly to show it to you. 1886. Okay, and so when where song goes into hami'atin. This is the hamiyat. What is the hamiyat? This is the dark mode, or we call it a scarlet mode, or man padmi hum hum. When you are humming, then you are receiving the sun temples, that is called hammam, or the heated place, or the narul masmum and hama'atan. That's the hell fire that they are receiving. And so what is in the emptied parts, inside which there is not the wine or the blood of the Christ? Emptiness. What is emptiness? Neural, only pure mind or sex, neural power, neural bursts. They call it Riki or Qi or Latihan. Okay, and so inside this Sobut Concord of the grandfather of this Barack Babun Obama, Mohammed Sojuju Mojuji Bujiji Jamjubi Jumjibi Chimpanzee, these are what they are receiving. They are receiving the dark matter or dark energy or dark mind. Okay, they are receiving Reiki. And so for these orangutans, all that they have is Reiki. In their hearts is Reiki, or Hame'atan, dark mud, or the heated, literally the name of the bath is Hammam or Hame'atan, the heated, moist the heated dark mind or dark matter inside which the UFOs or the Merkabas of Beelzebub are flying. Okay, we call it also Ojaj of Gog and Magog, or Jaj and Majaj. This is the heated hellfire that are full of, that is all these chimpanzees have, and that's for the people of Jahiliyyah. Inside, and so this is very important, what is Jahiliyyah is the name of the tree of knowledge of evil. The age of scientism, electricity, computer, internet, technology, satellites, AI, these are all called Jahiliyyah. Okay, it is with the Jahiliyyah that we can come and make not only biochemical engineering, or bioweapons, or nukes, or genetics, or pills, all sort of things. The Jahiliyyah is the knowledge of evil, of working with the mind power, while it is lacking the presence of Christ, or when it is empty from wine or breeze of God. These are the people that are put branch in their noses, as we read in Ezekiel 8 verse 17. And so and then Allah sends upon فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَةَ, and so Allah sends upon Prophet Muhammad and upon the believers. Again, these are not ordinary believers, these are some of the ones that are fighting on mushroom, as well as also we have the ordinary believers, but in this case it is the believers that are fighting with this kind of people. These are the idol worshippers that made the Kaaba as a museum of the idols. Again, the idols are representing the idols, or the Buddhis, or the Bodhisattvas, or the digits of the Buddha, the beast of the bottomless pit, or the golden calf, or Barack Babun Obama. And so so Allah sends upon the Prophet Muhammad and his brothers that are fighting. What is he sending? That is the Christ ark, or the Christ coffin, or the Christ box, or the Christ Kaaba Kibotos, or the Christ lamp, or the Christ misbah, or the Christ lamp of Allah, or ark of Allah, or mountain of Allah, or tree of Allah, or finger of Allah, or vehicle of God, or chariot of Allah. And then Allah made them adhere, or Allah necessitated, or Allah sent his tranquility upon them and believers, and imposed upon them, or alzama, and made it necessary for them. What? This is another name of the same Sakina, the equivalent, the synonym of Sakina is Christ. Or what is his name? Kalimat at-taqwa, claim of strength. That's the name of strength. That's then another name of Christ. That is Kalimat at-taqwa. This is Kalimatullah. Exactly like this we have here in 940 that we are going to look later on. The same fight we are going to in details later on, but here check it out. The equivalent of Kalimat Taqwa is Kalimatullah, or claim of Allah, is where the Shekinah, Sakina comes. Okay, and so Kalimat. And so as soon as the ark, that's why the priests of the Israel always are carrying the ark. We are the ark carriers in our heart, or we are the carriers of the spirit of Moses, or Solomon, or Elijah, or Elias. And so وَأَلْزَمَهُمْ كَلِمَةَ التَّقْوَى. Kalimat al-taqwa is basically is what gives power, willpower, weight power, forbearance power for them. And so this taqwa is what we call it in Hebrew as tiqwa, okay, tiqwa. And then here we have it as cord, something that you make a belt or girdle around something, something that you laterally strengthen it, like reinforce it. And we also call it hope. Hope. These are all the names. And the God would hope and longing. This is the beautiful one. Taqwa. We had wanting, waiting. When you love someone, you wait for them in front of the calamities and the hardship that are coming to you by yourself. Because again, we are nothing but darkness, and the light is someone else. And so and God, and the hope of the as you can see, hope, all of these hope that we have, the hope is basically you are my hope, you are my tiqwa. This is Psalm 71:5. Okay, this is taqwa or tiqwa, and the pronunciation of tiqwa in Hebrew is tiqwa. Okay, this is taqwa, and taqwa is coming from the root word of qawa or quwwat, or waiting or hoping. And so this is not again taqwa, waiting or hoping, okay, then that you are hoping for someone, or you are getting becoming a strengthened for someone, or like this is what we call as taqwa. And taqwa doesn't necessarily mean devoutness or righteousness or God-fearing. Yes, that is the case, that is the piety, but also it is God-hoping, God-loving. God-fearing is exactly the same as God-loving, because when you love someone, then you fear losing them. That's the meaning of, or annoying them, or displeasing them. That's the meaning of God-fearing. In other words, it is the God-loving of the beloved. You want to be gentle, as Emilia always says in front, and so that is the although she is not gentle, but again, that is she's not gentle to herself and to her neighbors by bringing gay filth and sodomy to these people. But again, that is what we call it as God-loving. Another word of it is courageousness. Taqwa means boldness. Taqwa means coming from qawa, quwwat. Here we can say that it is coming from patience or hope, or forcefulness, or taqwa. Here you can also, we have taqwa or tagwa, or kiviti in Hebrew, or quwwati, or the hope. Our God is the God of hope. And so what is happening here is that and so Allah sends tranquility upon Prophet Muhammad and the believers, and then gives them the strength, the willpower, the hope. And then as soon as you see the beloved, then you become like a lion, because the Lion of Judah is with you, or a Lion of Yehuda is with you. And then you can easily stand in front of the noises of these orangutans, that all they have is a little bit of the bursts of neural fire. That's all these chimpanzees, the Reiki or the real, that these Beelzebubi baboons, and then the maggots and the mosquitoes of the Sahara sewerage can discharge. These are the little bursts of the neural fire, orgasmic energy. That all that they have is that they are nothing but ignorance. What is ignorance? It is pure mind, and there is no heart for these monsters. Again, these are the abominations that are not cleared, and they are nothing but energy, or the RPM, round per minute, or the Ouroboroses that they have minds have beaten their energy source, or their Muladhara chakra, and they are proudly gay priding that, oh, I found it. What have you found? I found my penis, my vagina. It's full of the energy, and it's full of the sex life force. They're high, the Reiki, that if you want the good one, then you have to go after the shamanic gurus, the cementitious, cement-full chimpanzees that are full of Hamatan, or dark mind, or dark mod, and that's it. But at the other side, we have the Sakina, or Kalimatut Taqwa, and that's where the consciousness starts, like right at the front of the ignorance of these Buddhist baboons, or Canaanites, or the dried orangutans, or the Canaans, the minerals that are dried, desiccated minerals. We have the Shekinah shower of mercy and Taqwa, or Kiviti, or Quvvat. And so the important thing here that we can get is that the root word of Taqwa is Quva. The root word of Taqwa, or hope, is Qava. And then, as we already read, I just want to quickly go over that. And so here we already read that God said that aqwataha, and so God made the earth and blessed the earth by sending his Shekinah box, or kalimat taqwa, and taqwiyat, and then and Allah determined in it its sustenance, or quvvat, or food. Is another name of aqwata. This is another name of what we call it, not only aqwataha, but also we call it as taqwa, taqwiyat, quvvat, qut. This is coming from the same root word of qavi, taqwa, qaviya. And that qaviyya is here. And so Genesis 1:9 is not talking about and they gathered somewhere. No, it is not gathering somewhere. Okay. And Allah said, let be gathered together the waters. No, Allah gave will power to them. Allah gave a strength or hope to heaven and earth in the 4 days after the second 2 days of creation. Here we have the first 2 days, and then we have the Arba'atul Ayyam, the other 4 days. And that is how Allah said to heaven and earth that come into being, come to qawwa'in, qawwa'in, qawwaming, qawwating, or kibiting, hoping. And then from there heaven started hoping, daydreaming, and then hell started nightmaring. What are the nightmares of the hell? That you can make a coronavirus, you have enough cyberspatial power to get everybody brainwashed and under the psyop that a gigantic thing is happening, but it is not a big deal. You are doing something much more vicious, and you don't want to know that you are preparing to go to war with Christ. All of those things, or again the same mind power that is telling to everybody that we have the global warming, and then you're twisting the truth and then falsifying it and then giving something that is not the case to everybody, a completely wrong explanation of everything. And so from there, the heaven and earth, willingly or by compulsion, they become what? they were so, and then they said that we are gonna become Tawan, or are you gonna ethosing, or by compulsion. This is the and from there they said that we're going to come with ta'at, or Tawan, or ethosing. And so from there the forces of hell started ethosing their hopes. For instance, hope of attacking to God, killing Mahisha Syria, bringing sodomy, bringing a lot of knowledge, going and the tenants, the Masonic tenants that are now owners, think that they are the gods. The orangutan is gay parading, the naked emperor, or the Pied Piper, and plenty of the hypnotized, psychedelized chimpanzees are gay parading behind him, or chimpanzee monkeys in white suits, we call them scientists, or kashefun, are doing what they call, we biblically call it black magic, sorcery, but nowadays we call it science, research. Everything is euphemized. And so, but the important thing here is qawa, or aqwataha, and so that's the aqwa. And so from here we have aqwa. And so anytime that Christ comes, then taqwa increases aqwataha, and so quwa increases. And so this is not gathered, this is this is not gathered, and said God, let the waters find a strength under the Shemaim. This is under the Shajare, or the tree of the knowledge of good. And then from there we reach to the dry land, and the dry land is over the Dead Sea that is mentioned in next verse. Like, and that is how the dry land was, or the Malakut, or the second is verse. It is floating like a felucca, a folk, or Malakut membrane, or the sea level on top of the Dead Sea, or the void. And so that's the meaning of basically, and inside the Dead Sea there is no light. And so the felucca film is the transition between the light, and then we reach to the Hiram, or the Harumi level, or the Khatm Suleiman, or Makhtums, or Masduds, the iron dam of the Zulqarnain. That's where the Sad is, and then outside of the Sad is the wilderness. That's where the monsters are living that are now owners of the White House, the Kremlin Palace, the Xi Jinping communist castle, the gathering, I forgot the name of this communist gathering saloon, whatever, in China, in Beijing. And so that's what I wanted to draw your attention. This is another name of Christ, Kalimatu Taqwa, the word of hope, the word of strength, the word of tranquility, the word of calmness, the word of forcefulness, the word of courage, the word of boldness, the word of hope, the word of power, not necessarily God-fearing, as all the time we read in mainstream Islam, God-loving. How's that? Okay, they go together, both of them. God-living, God-loving, God-fearing, or again, that's what we call it as here as tiqwa, tiqwa, or 8615 tiqwa, that is pronounced like this, tiqwa. Okay, that's what we have it here.
تقوى.
And taqwa or tiqwa is the garment of the faith that is upon the believers, upon their souls, not the physical body. And so when you are carrying the ark at your heart, then it means that you are carrying Christ with yourself. You are carrying the taqwa in yourself. You are carrying the anointment of the Holy Spirit, or you're carrying the olive oil that is running abundantly. And when you are carrying it, you carry all the four corners of the Christ four cornerstone. And then you can lift up the Christ Kabekyukibotos. In this case, this is the ark, okay? We have the ark inside the tabut, like basically the ark or the third eye is inside the body. This is one of the entire body of Christ or the Holy Spirit, and then inside it is the only solely holy of the holy, or the debir or the oracle, that is only this. But what is in there are the four verses. This is who Christ is. First, you don't have three gods, you have one God. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, or Yahid. And then Allah is Samad, he is constant, he is stationary, he is absolute. And so after isolating Allah and giving isolation to God, then the other two seraphims or the cherubims from the four cherubims up there, the lion face, the eagle face, the ox face, and then the one that is like it. And then the other one are saying that who is not Allah. The one, the first two are saying Allah is what and what. Then they are saying that what he is not. And so he said that he doesn't have a son, begotten or begotten, not made son, whatever garbage that means. That's nothing but a man-made misinterpretation. He doesn't screw anyone, he doesn't intercourse anyone, he doesn't yalad or yulat, or doesn't do kind of things. He has a priest, yes, but he doesn't have a son, okay? And so and then in addition to that, no one sits on his throne with him, as we read in a retard mistranslation. And so balam yakun lahu kufuwan, and no one is at his kaffa or level. That's why he's called the Most High God, the only one creator. And so when you are in your heart, you are carrying the taqwa, then to creator, then you are lifting all of these four corners together. You drop any one of these, you turn the curing or the hope into nothing, into curse, into disappointment, into nightmare, into trinity toxin, into many things that you might or I might, the many pitfalls that we might fall into it. And so all together, these four verses of together, they become the Christ four cornerstone, or the headstone that the Zerubbabel is lifting and then showing to everybody. And now we reach to the, I think, the last point that I wanted to make about the verse 24, verse 35.5. About the point 5 about Surah 24 verse 35 is that the blessed olive Ilahi Tur Turi temple or the higher as-sirat, okay, we call it the higher as-sirat, that is on top of the lower as-sirat. Here we have the top straight street, or street, the the Salsabil or the Rakia street, or the seven skies, and they are on top of the lower as-sirat or street, or the beacon of light into the darkness, okay, or we call it Chinud Pratum, or the as-sirat street, bridge of crossing, double-edged sword that comes out of the mouth or the face or the eye of Christ. And so is that the blessed olive oil tree temple is considered to be, as we read in 24:35, neither of the east nor of the west. So what does it mean? That he is not skewed. The tree of life that is at the back or behind or above of tree of knowledge of good is not slanted or skewed or tilted. It is neither leaning toward east nor toward west. It is straight going up from the Christ cloud or the Christ throne, or this lower, a smaller jasper pupil, to the great jasper Penuel pupil. Symmetrical and cylindrical. That's the meaning of also. Neither of the east nor of the west. That means he is symmetrical and also cylindrical. This cylindrical is important. That's the coordination that we must use when we are talking about the heaven. Although in a quick translation from this pearly part of 24:35 we can correctly deduce that the olive oil tree, mount tree, or the top tree, or the higher yakin cone of BDCTN model with top as Sirati street or axis shaft rakia trunk salsabili spine center line is symmetrically here and name calling or revolving or Sufi samaing or rotating around the Hashem Allah, the great name, and the axis of the central line, the shaft trunk, and that is a stretch stemma from him holy self toward where the Isahi moon, from up here to here, to Mundis, from lower Jasper rock. However, there is a deeper meaning and reasoning about this pearly part. And so the first part is that we just say that, all right, this is a stretch between the two fixed points, which is the case, and that's how the entire stability comes into the creation. Once the Christ is yakined, or fixed, or taqawad and taqwiyated, or tiqwad, or the strengthened or fixed as the event horizon to Allah, not from not only at the protos sea state, but also at the scaton, at the lowest level of the entire heaven. However, there's a deeper meaning and reasoning about this pearly part. We can easily derive from neither of the east nor of the west that inside the lamp tree book mount, the distribution and propagation and spreading and diffusion and dissemination and dispensation of the reason ray, or the logic light, or the fire favor, or the glorious grace of Yasin, Yasna, Izad, Yazdan, Rahmani, Yesi, God, is not toward left or right, or east and west. Now, what does it mean? That this dissemination is not going toward left and right, but it is up down. It is in an up down manner. In other one word, and for the clarification purpose, I must say that the solar salam is the meaning of salaming, sail, or the solar sail, or the flood, or the downpour, or the rain, or the solar, they come together, solar and salam, that are part of the same sal, or the soul, which means sail, something that can fluidly separate, or a spirit, or passes. And so the solar son of the soily man, or the Son of Man. In other words, I must say that the solar Son of Man, not Son of God, the solar son of soily man, and the soil in English comes from salsal, and this one comes from sail. Okay, of the solsali man, or Isa Messiah, Ruh Rainbow Halo, whose wrong epithet is also the begotten Son of childless God, is not seated at the right hand of the Father. Okay, and so I'm here basically emphasizing that the right hand of the Father doesn't have a right hand and a left hand, and in the heaven we don't have the right and left. Everything in heaven is up and down. If it is relative to Allah, then the right hand means the immediate underneath, and the left hand means lower than the right hand, underneath the right hand. And so God doesn't have a right hand and then the left hand. And is seated at the right hand of the Father, or the Jasper throne, the most high, holy pupil, person, Kaf, Pan, face, cruise. And here we can see the right hand of Allah. That is, we have it. Isahi Irisa is seated under the Allah. And so that's the meaning of that neither of the east nor of the west. The coordination system inside the heaven, inside the firmament or rakia or salsabili shaft, is a cylindrical coordination. We only work with the radius or diameter, the radial distance, and also we work with the height, the altitude of that's it. There is no left and right. It is completely symmetrical. In Tarshishi terminology of the pearly parables, this is important. Again, when we say in the like you can become a bigoted person, a brain, a bacteria that is only sticking to the words, and you go for the literal words of for the literal kind of translation of the words. And if you do that mistake, then you find that, all right, if Allah has this right, then the left must be different. But again, as I said, Allah is Samadet. Allah, when it's Samadet, here that we look at it, that Allah is Samadet, or constantly separated, stationary, it means that from the right to left and from the left to right, he is built and girdled, completely separated from that, and so the right and left doesn't mean anything. And so the right hand means underneath. How? Because in the cylindrical coordination system, the right hand means the only thing that it means is the underneath, and so no one sits, the right hand doesn't sit at the level of the right hand. That's why we said walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad, and no one is at his kaf or pan or face level, altitude. And so in Tarshishi terminology of the pearly parables, with regard to the most high holy Allah, his right hand refers to the most immediate, near, close, underneath, and his left hand refers to the ontological level, lower, more distant than, under his right hand. And so 2435 is saying that neither of the east nor of east nor of the west, means that every thing is arranged in heavenly holy hoop in cylindrical coordination system. In cylindrical coordination, instead of east direction and west, or left side and the right side, there is only under and above, up and down. Up there is higher and lower. And so allow me to scratch the deliberately selected wrong picture, this picture that I have selected it, like a scrying bulb. okay, deliberately selected wrong picture of the lower right corner because consideration of the spherical arrangement for Sabasabians Messianic Misbah, this sab and sab and sab and sob and sob and sabah, bad sabah, or the sabah wind, the morning wind, or the morning Holy Spirit Sabaoth angelic army, or the Yasmina, he smells and the winds that Christ breathes into the human or into the hellhole, is basically doesn't have the spherical arrangement, this one that is showing here. Why this is wrong? Because if you can see here, the light source or the Allah is, first of all, this one is wrong. Why? Because it is there is something higher than him. The bar doesn't go above Allah. Okay, Allah is not like that. Allah is the end, is the cause or qaza or the cut end of that cylindrical shaft, or the finger, or the nail, or the gilgal, the pen. There are reasons for that. They are all the time talking about the trunk. Okay, and so first that, and so there is nothing higher than Allah, and so this is a wrong depiction. And the other the wrong thing about this is that he has a right and left, or east and west. But in heaven, in the cylindrical system, the distance of this one and the distance of the one that is in the same level are equal. This is looking from underneath upward, and so we don't have right and left. Okay. And so that's but I deliberately brought this deliberately selected wrong picture. Why? Because it can show us that we have a glass bulb, and then the glass bulb is light lanterning White House, like the lighthouse, into the Dead Sea, the stormy Dead Sea. That outside is night, and the inside is all day, everlasting Eden day of added ones, or Eden ones, or the Eddati ones, or Adn, Jannaton Adnan. Adnan means added in English. They are added, that's the gathering, assembly. And so a spherical arrangement, and so the lower, because consideration of a spherical arrangement, or the spherical coordination system for Sabaean, Sabian, Sabasabians, Messianic Misbah, or the legacy lamp of the morning forces, involves and requires the left and the right for the Most High Holy God, who is lower to be in, who is lower to be in the middle. Again, that is not the case. First of all, we have again high for it, and that is wrong. And also we have a left and right, which is also wrong. Allah is not in the middle in this way. Allah is in the middle by being at the most high, and that can only happen through the cylindrical coordination system. The correct and healthy form of the good, or the Husna Hosanahi form of the firmament, flute, finger, flashlight of Exodus 8:19, of Izad Yazdan, Yasin Yasna, or good form for the messianic misbah of Sabasabianzi spirits or separies, is indeed the cylindrical form, or the cylindrical arrangement, or the cylindrical order, that is erect rakiyad vertically or cylindrically in such a word way that no east, no west, no left, or no right would remain in that longitudinally extruded empyrean or cylindrically salsabil spine, or the bounced up firmament fluid finger flashlight. That's the flashlight body. And then from here we get to the night, where the light beam beacon comes out of the Christ Misbah. For the purpose of clarification in BDCT, any model or the form of the good God, I am going to reopen the discussion about the 6 or 10 divine directions shortly, briefly. First, allow me to firmly, although no, from here I go a little bit deep. First, allow me to firmly fixate and yakin con, or locate, or position, or heavenly orientation, and then we will talk about the hellish earthly lower con cosmos orientation. And so that's the way it should be. First we need a reference point, and then from there we go into the void. That is right hand hang holding from and to the first one. And again, first we are working with the yakin. First we need to find a makan, or imkan, or the possibility that is actualized, or place that has taken place. As we have read before, the Christ Karim full moon disc, or the Eskatani Yesod foundation of heavenly day with 24 elder hours, is belief bound, or the amen seeker, or yu'menuna of 40 verse 7, or gather, fix, vitrified, or yogadad, or yogad, or sorry, in this case yu'alaf, or yozjid, yes, sorry, yozjid, or zugost, or zigzagged, or the vitrified, crystallized, shoulder to shoulder, coupled, and linked completely, or the right hand hang holded directly to absolute samad, chamedan, samadhan, ni steadiness, constancy, firmness, motionlessness for God, stillness of Allah Salam source singularity. And that is how the cylindrical shaft firmament of the flashlight, or the love lampstand, is straight as seratorily extruded erect rakiyat, with no ill inclination to east or west. And so that now it is fixed, and now we are extruding out. And so as Sirat trunk axis of Isahi flashlight, or the olive mount Tur tree temple, or the Atma Sedar tree, Sadratul Muntaha, or the Tub Tayyib, Shajaratul Tayyib, the good curing, healing city that gets your nausea to go away, because you're not in the void and you don't need this to die in order to get rid of the nausea and get rid of everything and your consciousness and your existence, and say, well, this is the best, is a bliss for this nausea. Over there, the Shajara Tayyibah is fixed to the creator, or the vine tree, or the tree of or tree of life. Okay, and so as Sirat trunk axis of Isahi flashlight, this is the tree of life, or the olive mount, or the olive tree, or the top tree, or top tayyibi tree, is at his middle or center, harta. That is precisely what we read. And فَوَسَطَهُنَّ بِهِ جَمْعًا. That also we have it in Genesis 1:6 and 2:9 at the center. They are gathered. And that tafkik or tavek or tafak or tafakkak or tafkik or separate us. The sweet Serest ocean or the him solar self in two symmetrically identical parts, left and right side. And so just as the two 18 cubitای horn cornea قنقرنز of Zulqarnain or the double-horned cow-cross king are lined up, aligned, straightly straightened along each other, back to back along each other, top as sirat, lower as sirat, higher street, lower street. One street is a street of city of God, the other one is the street or the trunk of tree of knowledge of good, or the moonshine level, and then from there we reach to the darkness and deeper levels of the hellhole. They are kind of aligned to each other, these two pillars, back to back. They are overlaid or assembled on top of each other. And so one is the center at the top, or at the pivotal point, the middle center of the top, and now from the top we are going outside, back to back, overlaid, assembled, similar, assembled. 18 plus 18, 36 minus 1, 1 common, and then plus 1 hand breadth, 36 cubita. And so similarly, the tafkik or tavek or tafek or tafek, tavek, tafkik, that's where the Hebrew 84:32 is coming, similar to the other one. And similarly, the tafkik, tavek, tafekahi, central, middle, focal point of وَسَطَهُنَّ بِهِ جَمْعًا must be lumped or welded to each other. Now that we have identified this reference point, or the eschatonic inflection point, or the foundation of the heaven, which is the solar ceiling roof of the hell lady earth, let us enter down into the Galilee Gardenic void or Bakua, and carry on our survey with our earthly lower cosmosy orientation. Now that I want to talk about this. And so the فَوَسَطَهُنَّ بِهِ جَمْعًا, in fact this one, and we have the same repetition here, and this one is in fact related not to the heaven. This one is related to the Galilee garden. It is at the center of the garden, okay? But the thing is that the tree of knowledge of good is at the center of the garden. That's where the فَوَسَطَهُنَّ بِهِ جَمْعًا of Genesis 2:9 is also coming. But as for the and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst, or the tavek or the tafek of the waters. And so that is this is the second middle. This is the first middle, and so it is the same that we have it here in the midst of the garden. This is the tree of life, or the firmament. Okay, in other words, they are one rakia together. Firmament in the midst of the waters, or in the midst of the garden. And so this higher rakia, or the yakin cornea, or the yakin pillar, is in a cylindrical coordination system, and from there we can the Boaz pillar is connected to it, or the Boaz cornea or qarn is connected to that, and that is how the Boaz cornea is at the center of the waters. At the center of which waters? We have two waters, sweet waters and then the salt waters. At the center of the salt waters is the Boaz cornea. At the center of the sweet waters is what we call it as a yakin cornea, or the higher street or as-sirat, and then the lower street or as-sirat. And then later on we will see that this Boaz goes to the Malkut, and then from the Malkut it continues through a river into the wilderness, and wherever it goes it brings life, or the light continues, but in a way that the darkness will not be able to perceive it. And so they are center to center and back to back, okay, of each other. Now let us enter down into the Gardenic Void Bagua and carry on with our survey or orientation. Now we are coming into the salt waters, not into the sweet waters. For the sweet waters it is easy. It is from here, it comes directly, street of the city in Revelation 22 verse 2. A street of the city of Salam city is that we call it also Salsabil. Okay, the Salsabil comes directly down. The middle pillar of the tree of life comes directly, straightly down. There is no left and right. The left and right are basically cylindrically spiraling around this central one. And then the important thing is that this central one is lumped to the other one in the same direction, is aligned at the same direction, at the extension, at the same extension of the other pillar, and that's how the heaven and hell are mounted on Christ. And now that we have identified this reference point, we read that although the mention and the non-existent west and east in 2435 were related to the heavenly year, to the day, or the olive oil day with 24 Edeni auras, or the elder auras. However, now that we have exited out of the Saba Sabianzi Misbah, or the Sab means bursting, outflowing, moonshining, daybreaking, or sabaoting, preventing, or kind of sprouting, overflowing, gushing of the light of everything. Now that we have exited out of the Saba Sabianzi Misbah, I am going to discuss about the misunderstood directions of the Ersah and West in earthly lower cone cosmos orientation, directions of the East and West in earthly lower cone cosmos orientation. And now from here we are getting to our later we will see this east, we can look at it as south, and then the west as north, or the buried part, or the west, where the here we have the moonrise, and then here we have the moon set, where the moon will not be seen inside the dark night. Let me firstly start by saying two essential rules of thumb. That one, in earthly orientation, in heavenly orientation, it is cylindrical, everything is symmetrical, it is easy, it is yakin, everything is seen, everything is transparent. But in the earthly orientation, we have two cosmological horizons that are related to deep earth and surface earth. Beta brain wavy surface earth is the realm of our mosaic masks, or the animal body minds, or the skins, or the joludes, or the fetus, which are being alaqdi glitched, or the link, suspend, occupied, derived by us, our delta brain wavy natafs, or the qulubs, or the hearts, or the atman particles, or the zurriyats, or the causal body core parts, who are being carried upon zero curvature, the cone or the yakon, or the flat field, or the icon, or the lower con, or the dry land yebeshi al barre va yabashan, or the yabasan, that we already looked at it, or the mamari, or the mamari, mamari, malakut, membrane, or the feluka, or the plane of experience, that is floating above deep earth sea, or the hyperbolic saddle sinkhole with negative curvature or pressure, or the western wilderness wine press, or the hofrata menanar of humming, as we read before. That's for the jahiliyah, is the hame'atan, or the humming, hot mud, or the hot bath, moist in the hot bath, or the hell spirit, or the unupgraded, unpurified, rubbish, sour water, or the salt waters. And so and under solar ceiling, eastern raised rock roof, that is under the under this part. And so as you can see, our natafs are carried upon the zero curvature, and this zero curvature plane, or the mamari malakut. These are all the names, but among these names I'm going to use feluka, or folk, or this the sea level of the Dead Sea, or the ground of the garden, the ground, the level 0 of the ground, or the malakuts. But the mamar, or the place of the mamar, or the murur, or the istimrar, or the oburan murur, or the place in which we are placed on the qarar makin, has many names, as we are already said. And so our natafs are placed here. From our natafs we have the alaqs that are leaching, hanging from our natafs. These are our souls. And then from our alaq leaks reach down to our beta brainwave animal mosaic mask, or the physical realm of 30 hertz frequency. But this is the realm of the 5 hertz, less than 5 hertz frequency. That's where our souls are. For the if we want to go with the core based on the brainwave activity. And so this realm is floating above. Up to here it is under, but now it is above. Okay, and so this is floating above the Dead Sea, or the deep earth sea, or the hyperbolic saddle shape. And from there, basically with negative nerve and curvature, or the pressure, we call western wilderness, or the humming hot mud. Okay, or the Kundalini Canyon, or the again many names that we have already seen scripturally that are given to it. And under the solar ceiling, and so the Dead Sea is again the sea level is above the sea depths, and also is above, underneath, as we read in Genesis 1:10, it is underneath the Christ throne, that is 144,000 cubits high above that, and then water is cascading and then reaching through the series of 4 nasal nasal to the ground level, or to the sea level. And so it is and so it is under the solar ceiling, that we call it what? We call it Eastern Raised Rock Roof, or the Yakin Kiani Misbah Sphere, with positive curvature. With high pressurized Sabian's spirit and meaning. And so when we get to the negative curvature, we are lacking definition, and we are going into the void, and then we passes the level of what we call it a living being, and then we reach to the level of the dead corpses that Hindu Hellions or some of the Gentiles are worshipping, or basically the Makaras of the Dead Sea, or the whales of the Dead Sea, that are all inside the 19 mega angels of the hell, and together they make the entire earth. The entire Dead Sea, or the Galilee ground. And so this is where we want to work on it, that what is the Eastern what is the East and the West in the earthly orientation. The second rule of thumb is that our orientation in surface Earth and deep Earth, this is 30 hertz brainwave frequency, and this is 5 hertz, is relative to these two cosmological horizons. Each one has one horizon. On the surface, that's what we see as the horizon, and the sun, and whatever we have here. And the sun turning around Earth every 24 hours, one turn. And on the deep sea, we have the horizon of the Christ, or the appearance of the Christ as the only fixed and visible and stationary object of the deep earth sea. And so that is floating or hovering above the Dead Sea, and then again like your head that is hovering above the rest of your body, the rest of the entire deep sea is Christ. Okay, Christ's retro vortex, or the Galilee garden, the entire void or emptiness or this, and so our orientation in surface Earth and deep Earth sea is relative to these two cosmological horizons, about which we read in Surah 55 verse 17, or 7:137, or 37 verse 1, verse 5, that Rabbul Mashriq wal Maghribain, that Allah is the God or the Lord of the two rises, sunrise or moonrise, the physical sunrise and then the spiritual moonrise, and then also the moonset, the physical sunset, and then the spiritual moonset. But it's better to say not that moon sets, but from there the moon will not be visible. That's where the wilderness comes. Or فَلَا أُقْسَمَ بِرَبِّ الْمَشَارِقِ وَالْمَغَارِبِ, that shows that they are plural. Or رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا, and that is the Christ that is between them. Allah is the Lord of the heaven and then the earth, the hell, the lower cone, and then وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا, and what is in between them, or the Christ with the two qarniyas or the two pillars, and then وَرَبُّ الْمَشَارِقِ, and then he is the Lord of the horizons. One horizon is the physical horizon, the other one is the spiritual horizon. Similarly, وَنَسْلَ الْقَوْمَ الَّذِينَ كَانُوا يَسْتَضْعَفُونَ, and the earth will be given, the new earth, or this part, the moon disk, the back of the Christ, this here, the Beitul Ma'mur, will be given to the people that they call them naives or sofaha, or the people that don't have PhD degrees in engineering and those kind of things, the art-loving people, the poets, the not the poets that of the Gentiles and pagans, or the communists, or the Marxists, or those kind of the Jewish synagogue of Satan, or the but the people that are the sheep that are oppressed by the other types of the animals in the animal farm, like the lions, fox, dogs, and each one have their own kind of characteristics. And let me just quickly go through it, and then we can continue, and then yes, here we can see this is a much older version of the animal farm, but this is a hadith from the fourth Shia Imam, and then here we can see that this that it is said that the people are in 6 groups. Some of them are lions, and so the lions are the kingly monsters, like this queen reptile, Elizabeth, whatever garbage you want to call it. These are the lions. And then we have the wolves, and then the wolves are the merchants, the monetizers, the usurers, the bankers. These are the kings, the politicians, the people of the money. And then we have the foxes. The foxes are the queer clergy, or the priestly middleman, the clergies that say that you have to come to me for the God, or kind of I can sell you God, or those kind of things. I can send you Allah, I can tell you, and so you don't need the Torah, you need my retard Talmudic excrements to tell you the interpretation of the word, or whatever garbage it is, or the oral garbage. And then after that we have the after the foxes, or the again Pope Francis's, or the fake not even the ones that are hypocrites, but sometimes like the Dalai Lama joke of these Buddhist and Hindu orangutans of the Pharaoh. Sometimes you can go to the religion of the Satan, the Shiti and Indra, and then we have the Kalb, and then as for the Kalbs, they are the dogs, they are the owners, they are the ones that make the psyops of the coronavirus. The dogs they are the owners of the media, the owners of the press, the ones that can hurt you, the ones that can ruin your reputation, your social life. These are the ones that are called dogs, or the ones that are barking and getting the animals of the animal farm to go wherever they want. And so we have the lions, the kings, the presidents, and then we have the wolves, and then the wolves are the bankers, the money owners, and then we have the foxes, the pervert priests, pedophile priests, or the Shaolin chimpanzees, or the Baha'i baboons of the Bab of Baha in Haifa, that God may destroy it, all of that funky, stinky farce of rubbish. And then we reach to the dogs, and then after that and so these are all together. These are again the dogs are the media, the press, those kind of things, the owners of the Silicon Valley, the controllers of the Google, the owners of the YouTube, the ones that have the bell of the Durga in the weapons of the Dark Durga dragon. And so the lions, and then the wolves, and then the foxes, and then the dogs together. They are called what we call them as صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The verse 7 of the of Surah 1. It is talking about مغضوب. These are the Zalin. These are the ones that are pretending that are sleeping, but they are actually awake, and they are benefiting. And what they are benefiting is slavery. What is the slavery? Sin. Mass selling of the sin. The more you sell sin to the people, the more they lose their consciousness, their happiness, their joy, their spirit, and then the more they become the slaves and dependents of man instead of God. And so the more you do that, the more you gain power, and then the more when you're killing, murdering the saints of Christ, like Saint Qasim Soleimani and Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, the amazing warriors, then you have reached to the audacity to come and tell that I have killed a terrorist. Okay, and so again, the terrorists are the ones that say who is terrorist or who is not. A bunch of gays and filthy rubbishes. Okay, so these are the four clans of the society that are running the animal farm. And then after, these are Vajrayana writing or the Rig Veda writing. For instance, the Salab. These are the Rubah or the foxes. They are the ones that the clergy. They are the ones that look at the religion of God, and then they make their counterfeit Ziosi, Diaosi religion of Dishiti and Indra. They go they make the counterfeit religion of God and turn it into what is the religion of the Buddha beast. And so, and then we have the Kalb. These are the ones that the 9/11 is nothing but if you have a good Kalb power or the barking power of the press and the media, then you can get the entire world to go into a gigantic psyop, that the Cold War psyop that was made after the World War is nothing in front of that. All of these are completely planned for every age of the history, so that the minimum amount of the animals of the animal farm can realize that they are slaves of the sin. What is the sin? Two things. First, ignorance. Second, lack of commitment to Allah, to your heart, to your happiness, to your rejoicefulness with the Creator, not your sexual happiness, not your mental happiness, but your surrenderance, your salamati, your amen, immunity, amniyat, safety of your heart, that is basically shaking the Christ hand that Allah has stretched toward you. And that's the only way that He can pull you out of the filth in which we are made. And if you refrain, then you're on your own, and then you are nothing, and then so we collapse into ourselves. And so these four groups are called Maqzub wal Zalin. These are Zalin. These are the Ramayana writing reptiles, or Vajrayana writing a bunch of packs of dark matter, dark energy gurus that have bunch of Deva Devi devils, fallen garbage, dumped garbage into the Sarah sewerage that they have as in order to give you. And that's how they maintain their power. And then after this we reach to Khinzir. Khinzir means the pigs, or the pigs means the people that whatever rubbish you put in front of them, they eat it. And that's the mainstream consumers, or the CNN watchers, or the Washington Post reading retards, or the New York Times reading retards again. These are Maqzub or the PhDs, or the heliocentrists that are indoctrinated by whatever garbage these four groups give them. The lions, the wolves, the bankers, the foxes, the clergy, like gay-friendly Bible that they call, and also the dogs, the propaganda that we are for the democracy or nationalism or whatever or the communism, whatever garbage they are making. And again, the Kalb has the press, the publish, the print, the internet, the cyberspatial space. All of it is in hand of Kalb, these dogs. And then the Khinzir are buying it, the black hole theories, the evolution, the socialism, the communism, the Adam Smiths, the whatever the bodhisattva, the 70 bodhisattvas of this Chundi is making. I don't know if I can find it like this or not. We will find it later on. And so these are the people that are basically, we call this Khinzir as verse 1:7. These are the people that are maghzub, or the followers. These are the ones that have received have earned the wrath of the Creator. They follow, they are oppressed, and they have internalized the commands of their oppressors, and the commands of the oppressors is basically the what is coming from these four higher groups of Brahmins. These are the Brahmins of the Brahman that are getting the ordinary people, or the khinzir, or the pigs, to internalize and eat and ethos the Rig Veda literature, the black hole literature, the relativity literature, that you are the God literature, naturalism, whatever you want to call it. And then at the other side we have the ships of Christ, or Vashatan, and these ships of the Christ are basically the people who are really living. And so here we are talking about the ships. And then in this hadith that is from the fourth Imam of the Shia, we read that people are frightened from the dogs because of their biting, stinging tongues, and then insulting, or they can ruin your social life, or those kind of things in the media, ruin your reputation. And then the pigs are the people that are submissive and receiving whatever rubbish it is given to them. They use it submissively, using it. They are called maghzub. And then we have the people of the Christ, or the sheeps, and then the other ones shear their hair, the hair and the wool of these, use them, eat the meats, and then break their bones. And then the Imam is saying, Imam Sajjad is saying that what can do a sheep while he is in the among the lions, among the wolves, among the foxes, among the dogs, and among the coward herds of the masses, or the pigs that are following them. And as soon as they say this is year 2000, they rush into the stores because of the scarcity or any kind of problem. It is coronavirus, let's rush there. We have a 9/11 false flag, let's go and bomb the heck out of the 7 countries because they are Muslim and they are the ships. And then later on we call them the terrorists, like terrorist saint of the Christ now is turned to terrorist. And that orangutan is a horn of Barack Obama, or the Bin Salman is making mosques of gold, and then everybody think he has something to do with Islam, but in fact he is nothing but a horn, one of the 10 horns of the Antichrist. Or even Erdogan, he makes some funky Islamic shows and farces, but again he's he's more away, distant from Islam than Modi is, the Hindu Modi. At least Modi says that I am Hindu. That's has a much higher level of integrity. That Erdogan is the whore of the Babel. And so here it says that and the inheritance of the new earth will be given to Yastazafun, the oppressed people, the sheep that are being butchered by the other 5 groups. And then Allah is the owner of the Mashariq al-Arz and Magharibaha al-Barrati Barakna Fiha. And then the blessing of these are coming again, the horizons of the earth. We have the two, always, as we can see, مشرقین مشارق مغارب مغربین as we can see, it is always plural. It is not horizon. These are horizons, and so it shows that we are dealing with two horizons. One is the visible earth, the other one is the hidden earth or the underworld. And then Allah says that I am the Lord of the both horizons, whether this one with the physical sun coming up and then turning around earth and then going down, and then or the underworld, and then in the underworld we are dealing with in the spirit realm, we are dealing with the appearance or the moonshine of the Christ, and then lack of God. And that's how we are going to talk about the orientation in the deep earth. Okay, and Allah is the Lord of the two orients, i.e. the sunrise and the moon messiah rise of, or the misbahi morning. Sabah sob means morning, and misbah, that sab means like birth of the daybreak. And then Mumbuki Booker Bakaras that we already look, Genesis 1, 5, 8, 13, 19, 23, and 31. This is precisely this misbah, or these are the moonshines or the big bangs, the 6 big bangs by which the creation is formed, or the form of the good is made by the medium, and the medium is the mercy and Shekinah of Allah. The order has come into the chaos and has made this amazing masterpiece of Allah, artist. And Allah is the love Lord of the two sunsets, i.e. sunset, and we call it Ereb or Qurub. Ereb or Qurub are coming from the same in Hebrew or in Arabic or Aramaic. And so these are the qurubs or the moonsets, or the 6 cessations of solar screen flood, or the nightfalls, or the evil evenings, or the dusk endings of Isahi cry Quran Gara. That is one, and also again the qurubs are part of another thing that as we will see it later on, part of the qurub is not necessarily the 6 cessations, but yes, it is the sickening cessations of the solar scaling, because when the moon rise happens, or the cry qara'a happens, or Qur'ans, or the 7 thunder of the Revelation 10 is roaring, or the Quran, moon book of life, is roaring, we have the commands of God that is giving order. And then after that, after each one of them, he stops, so that the void, the emptiness, the vanity can follow and become what it has said to it to be. And so it has become. And so this is the becoming process. And so for each cry, for each moonrise, or for each solar flare of the misbahi lamp of morning, or the daybreak, or Pokkara Bakara in Big Bang, for each Big Bang of the Christ, there is one becoming, and then the vanity starts becoming, and that's how we have the 6 days of the creation, and in the deep earth. And then and after it catches up to the amount of the decree that Allah has, with bam bam, but just like that, with that easily he has got his Christ to Baqarah and Big Bang, and made this amazing creation as easy as that for Allah. And so once the creation or vanity or emptiness or nothing or this becomes that, then he gives the next Big Bang, and then he becomes the next, the order comes, the chaos becomes ordered, the next order comes, the chaos becomes more ordered. And so these are the 6 bakaras, and there, or we can say these are the 6 cries or the roars. And then when it is heard, we have the 6 parts in which two bodies in our sight, and then the creation is becoming following. Although at this point I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about the angels and whatever is all the creatures of under the underworld, the veils of the Dead Sea, and then also the more important thing, the 19 mega angels of the hell. In addition to the oriental sunrise of the zero curvature cosmos, the visible horizon, which implies the eastern emergence, daybreak, dawn of ordinary sun, there is the oriental eastern moonrise of Isa Messiah, dawn, daybreak, morning, moonrise, or baqara'ing nurun ala nur, Surah 24. This is the second nur, the light upon light. This is the second light, or the fathun mubin, or qamar, or the obvious being. It's complex. You can put it in a being. It's clearly defined and bounded as a fat or fatah mubin, or qamar. And from there we have also Falaq, Zoha, Fajr. These are all the names of the Christ, or the dawn, or the misbahing, who define us the Isahi Edeni east, or the another important word, the Shriq in English, or Sharq, or Ishraq, or Sharaq, or Sharak, or shriek, or shriek, which means screaming, or emergence, or appearance, or brilliance, or east. That's the literally meaning of the eastern star, or eastern moon, or of our, or makanan sharqiyan, that we have it in 19 Surah 19, I forgot. Define as the Isahi of our psychic space. This is in the Bakua, or the Bagwai blank void, or the emptiness with saddle spherical modes of vibrational vanity, or the still silence, which can be water voice and shriek sharaqat and tabrizi briza. That's why we read before that bara'e shams tabrizi z mashriq ke asle har ziyawi. And again, that's where we have the amazing that breathing, bruising, emerging, appearing Christ, or the moonrise, or the moon shouts, or the big bangs from the east, from the dawn. Rise, O Mahisha Surai Tabrizi Briza, because you are the Asle Harziyah, because you are the essence and the primary essence, 3 times repeated, of every nur and ziya and light and brightness in the Bagwai black hole. And so that is which can be, again, this silence can be perturbed, or shouted, or shrieked, or sharaqat, or Tabrizi Brizat, with the eastern and oriental solar wind spirita, who is called the Saba Sabian Saba Utah of Messianic Misbah, or that voice is the spirit voice that is coming from Misbah, Christ, Messiah. Now after the second day door diski ring bella of Genesis 1-8 or 41-9, that directionless vayu void, or the Tian tunnel, or the silent sunk hole, or dark durga dragonic khali khalal khali hollow, a resting falsehood, or the Trishula Shioli Trizula Zells, or the three emptinesses to three darknesses, or the Tiantin Tanatosi thinking, dead thinking, or the reptilian braining of Aphrodite, Ifrit, Ophrati, base lead metal, and omnious Nahs, Cobra copper, or the hollow hearing, or the empty ear eye. These are not consciousness, these are dead forms of animalistic psyche. We don't call them consciousness, contrary to what all of these guru-burus and chimpanzee Hindu orangutans with half a meter beard and the charlatans that are coming and selling spiritual raps to their victims in the Western as part of the ritual supermarket. They are all talking about these parts of that, and that is there's no difference between what a dinosaur has in their or a hippo than us. Okay, the language is coming from here. That's where the sharq or sharik or the speaking comes. That's where that is what makes us who we really are. Word using programs, language using programs, and so that are using direction or order in our consciousness, and so now that directionless vayuvat was a stagnant side, or idle toropos tarfatul ars, or dark diameters of both horizons, has been created or compartmentalized, or khalaqat, or kharated, in create, kharat, in Arabic or Hebrew or English, or compartmentalized, or khalaqad, or altered, change, converted, or baddalat. Now we have the baddala, conversion. These are the conversions. For each one of these Baqarain, or the Baqarain Big Bangs of the Mahisha Surah, that cow of God, instead of saying Moo, Zahr Mar, that is a stagnant rubbish. With that you might be able to lift up and gain elevation, but these are the badalas that are coming after the talks of the Christ that says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the loving. It starts to use the what we call it human language, but again that's the human language is coming from Shemaim, as فَعَلَّمَ الْآدَمَ الْأَسْمَاء of the Shema, of the Sama, and then the hearing of the human agency, and the language comes, which is not man-made or sex-made or fire-made or naturally made or evolution made. Okay, and then for each logati baqara, or the cries of the Christ teacher or the Christ class cop, Then we have one badala, then you learn and then you become badalat. We have it more here. I'm talking about the 4 days, okay, the other 4 days, not the first 2 days. But again, badala means tabdeeding or bedelihoming, and the badala means altering. Now you heard it, now you are correcting it or alternating, or basically allowance, charge, compensation, equivalenting, or returning or substituting. Now you're altering, converting. Christ says you follow, you hear, and then Book of Life teaches the lesson or the lectures, the legacy lectures are coming, and then you turn, you become educated. What are you educated? You become conscious. How are you becoming conscious? By the Quran, by following the ghara'a, and then by mimicking the ghara'a or the cry, roar of the Mitra Mehr or the Tishteria or Najm al-Shera or Sha'airullah, or the shining, the only shining Misbah, or the only shrieking, sharaqing, easting, shrieking, screaming, not making noise like money Padma. No, you're talking. You are not making animal noises. You are not making meaningless noises. You are making something that has order and direction and consciousness and meaning and purpose in it, okay? And that is something that is completely non-existing and alien in the nature. That's only for the human agency. And so for each one of these, during the Arab or Ghurub time, or after a teacher says, and then teacher stops, or munsets, or teacher silences, and then with that we badals, or we become, or we convert, and then we follow, or by we I'm talking about the creation. The creation follows the cries that loud speaker of Allah, or the Christ Logos is transferring from Allah, that is saying what is supposed to happen or take place in the deep earth or the Dead Sea, and then we go after that. And so that is called badaling or bedeliuming. It is not only, as we read in Genesis 1:4-6, it's not dividing. It is that like we go into that transformation of the consciousness, and the teaching sits in the creation, and so more and more the void is finding form of the good, and that's how the good has made, and then the void has turned into something an embodiment of the good, or that we call it human, Muslim, Christian humans that freely give their language to Hindus, that instead of making noises of Om Mani Padme Hum, they are using the Muslim-made language in order to communicate with themselves. And again, Muslims haven't made it by themselves. They have mimicked it from these shrieks or sharaks, or the loud lessons of the Christ teacher. And so has been created, compartmentalized, or altered, converted, or the badalah into lofty lighthouse, and dog drop wine press into lofty lighthouse, and dog drop wine press. It receives the two yet identical and simultaneous dependent directions or the orientations of East Oriental or East Orientalizing Shriq or Sharq or Ishraq. In the Ishraq, in the Sufism or in the Islam also we have the Ishraq or the emergence, or where the appearance or the presence of God, or the luminosity, radiance, or the Ishraq, or the dawn, or the vividness, or basically the emergence of the divine agency or the divine agency of the misbah lamp happens. We call it also sharq or east, going east, toward the east. That's the meaning of the sharq or shriq in English. And so now we have the East Orientalizing Sharq Shriqa, or or in other words, as we already talked about it, the the Foken, the Pagah, Pegah, or the Fawq, and Pegah in Persian, Faq, Fawqahi, up, top, where the Christ is, the Ziya is, or the lamp moon is, or where the teacher is, or the Eastern Observatory, or the Baqara Buqrai, Big Bang Ring Bell Dawn, or the Dirdohin Gazelle of the morning is, or the ring bell, the Big Bangs of the 7 church mosques are. And that's how from nothing but a simple psyche of a giraffe, a hippo, a dinosaur, a cockroach, that is just as equal as what we call them a Zen master, which are all noise-based moving shadows. We call them Gentiles and the corpse. Out of that, the 7 church mosques or the Holy Spirit was created, or the Allamahul Bayan happens, and for the first time a carbon-based life form mimics something that is not based on carbon, or based on matter and dark energy and dark mind, but is completely sanctified, or has beauty, or the order, or it is holy, Allahi, it is coming from a divine agency. It is something not as mundane as a mind, and that's where for the first time the heaven has a connection with the hell-hole vanity. And we call it also the normal vector, or out of plane messiah moon sighting that happens in the hell night, or the Quran cry hearing happens, and this is the hearing part. This is the sighting that happens in the Arabs or the Qurubs. When the teaching happens and has happened, and now the student or the hearer or the receiver or ethoser is ethosing or eta'ating, and the superstar observation is happening, or Amar Ruh Ramadan alien contacting. That's where the alien contact is happening. Again, our language, after the recitation of the Surah 1, verse 1 to 7, in the next creek, in the middle of the Gog and Magog, where me and my brother Ali Bukhari from Saudi Arabia were coming back to my place in Saskatoon, we were reciting Surah 17, Surah Isra, or the Soar, or the Hebrew Oburing the Christ and reaching to the heaven. And then during the recitation, the Arabic recitation of Surah 17, Ali was saying, man, this is a alien language. I was talking about the Quran, although that's his modern tongue language. And we had the glossolalia or Shattah, as we will read about it later on. The Shattah is the Sufi glossolalia that happens. We call it Shattah in Shattah. And Shat is the during the revelation that we receive spontaneously glossolalia. And then here you can see that we have the glossolalia agency in Christianity, and the Christian, the Islamic name of the glossolalia, or basically the spoken words, is Shattah. And then once you use the Shattah, once the Christ moon sights, we simultaneously followed of doing the 7 verses without even knowing what we are saying. And after that, that basically we become, or during the Qurub we become, or we just simultaneously follow and do that in a way simultaneously. And so that is, once we have a glossolalia or Shattah in Sufism, it is called Shattah. Shathiyat are part of the ecstatic chants that we say when we are in a close contact with of the third kind, with the messianic mothership, or the UFO moon disk, or the Holy Quran, or the Bible, or the Book of Life. And so when that happens, or Allah breathes life into our dead psychic platform, then those kind of alterations happen. Once you have such an experience, then you would realize that the frontal part of the cortex of your brain is not generator of language. We are receiving the language from outside. This is just the receiver. It is not a generator, just like a radio. And so and it is receiving it from somewhere. And so once you know that the language is not made by the monkey brain, then you are basically tuned into God TV, or God channel, or Tajalli television, or the Christ TV. And that is at the top, up top. Now we have the direction. Now we have the top and down that we already talked about it in Genesis 1:4, or here Surah 41:10. Now we have up and down in the middle of void. In the middle of, there is no up, down, left, right. There is no direction there. And now suddenly we find orientation, and the orientation is based on the consciousness, or on the language, simple language. We call it sharq, or shriking, or ishraq in Sufism. And the ishraq happens through appearance of Christ into the horizon of our consciousness inside the Bakua. And that's the only way that Bakua can receive something that is not man-made. It's completely alien, and my brother Ali was completely right. Although it was his mother tongue language, but he had never experienced saying something in Arabic language like that, because in that state we realize that it is not Arabic, or it is not, again, it is only one language. We are all having one language. That's the only one language. There is no two language. The consonants and those kind of things are babbled or babbled, got bowled, or got urinated or twisted the language and the consonants in the Babel, and then we became different nations. Otherwise, it is only one language that we are using, and that language is the language of the Shamaim, or the Sama name, or the place of the names, place of the words. The name and the word are all one thing. And that's where the direction and the order is coming. And so all of the anthropology colleges and departments in all of the end-time universities, they are nothing but bunch of what we call them pigs that are following the false theories of the lions, the foxes, the wolves, the bankers, the foxes, the coward clergy that are saying that tantric sex or the orgy or the gangbang has made language for us, or the food or the fire or whatever rubbish they are, or even brain. And then the dogs that are basically the outlets for them, the propaganda, the publish, the print, the press, the TV, the internet, the Google, the YouTube, you name it, whatever we have, it is all in hand of these four groups, and they're all governed by lion. And what is the most filthiest lion? We call it Leontocephalus, or the false Mitra, or the Antichrist, or not the real Mitra Mehr, but the Mitra Surya, the false Mitra, or the lion of the Durga. This is the filthiest of the lions, or the beast of the Daniel 7:7, or Revelation 11:12, the beast that has 10 horns, or the lion, the scarlet tiger, Qaduka Bahini Singha, that is Barack Babun Obama. And again, so that is called that's why we say that a touch, a small touch and contact with the Christ teacher shows you that this that I'm using this is holy. This is only in its proper form. It is only made for one thing: praising Allah and say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Izad Yazdan Yasin Yashnawi Rahman. And that's it. By the in-plane, in Malakut membrane plane, or the Magi prophets, or the Eastern Oriental ears, eyes, these are the ones that have been in Shattah, and in the Shattah they have been hearing. The Shattah, Shadhiyat, or the Shattah, or Shattahat, or Shadhiyat, that we call it. In Arabic we have it also Shattah, and again in Sufiyat, for instance, in Mansur Hallaj you can see about the Shattahat of the Mansur Hallaj, that comes and says that I am the truth, because he is receiving the breeze from Christ Tabrizi, and then says I have the breeze of the truth, it's blown into me, and so whatever I say, the live charcoal has put a place on my mouth, and so I'm saying the truth. and then the people killed him because of that. That is comes into English language. The shatah becomes shouting. The shouting is the loud language that is you are certain, that is coming from certainty. And so the Zoroastrian Magi's that are coming, the Eastern Oriental ears, eyes, who are orthogonally upright, vertically turned into the Christ Qibla, or the Qabla, or the Qabal, or the Kabbalah, or the Qabuliyat, or the Etosi Qutb pole, or the Baruki Ma'on Mubarak wa Ja'alni Mubarak, and that's what Christ said, and Allah made me the blessing, or I am the Christ cloud that from me the blessing is pouring. What is the blessing? What is the anointment of Christ? The language. The dolphins doesn't have anointment. The language, the dolphins doesn't have that. They are with different noises, with different frequencies. They are with different bandwidths. Each one has its own meaning, or each pattern has its own type of alarm, survivalist alarms or signals for food or whatever, running away, staying somewhere, whatever it is. But as for us, the barakat or barak, which means the lightning, and also the blessing is coming, or anhar, nahr, or the rivers, and also anhar means they, the brooks, or the or anhar wa sobolan, the rivers or these ways of 1615 that is mentioned here, for instance, or 26, these rivers, these this rain that is coming, for instance, the ma'on mubarakatan, the rain. This is the meaning of the ravana. This is coming from the Qibla Kabbalah Qutb, or the Christ Qabuling Qutb. And this Kabbalahing or Qabuling means that you are framing, or Qabuling, or Kabbalahing, or the hugging, or embracing, or ethosing, or hearing the Logesi lectures, or lessons, or Logati Balagha, or Balagul Mubin, or Belag Mubin, or the obvious blog that is blogging, or logging, or logesing. And so this is the anointing of the profane. In other words, here we can see that the profane, the hellfire, the nothing, the hollow, kali, khali, the hollow hearing, the empty, Zahramar. What the hell does that mean? Nothing. That is omnious. Zahramar, that is nahas, that's nas, or nachesh, or the omnious cobra copper, that is nothing, that is a different frequency bandwidths of the dark mud, or the hama'aton. I don't know if we still have it here. Yes, that's the hama'aton. That is ham, hom, man, padmi, ham. That's for the home of hammam, that aham, home. And that is ignorance. That is retardness. These chimpanzees call it sacred sounds, or sacred geometries. Those are rubbish. You chimpanzee, the language that you are using, you Dalai Lama orangutan, and those chimpanzees that call you Dalai Lama the holiness, what the hell? You are using something holy in order to give holiness to nothing but a trishula shioli noises of the hellhole, but by which you can make a cockroach, and you can make a hippo and a giraffe and a dinosaur and then a mosquito and a monkey. But in that there is no zilch, nothing. There is no hello, how are you? Okay, that is coming from hello, halo, halali, hallelujah. Okay, and R is are, and how are you? You is also another part that is used in the shamaim of the shamas and the names, and that's again, it is in contact with this part that we see that in Genesis 2:19, and out of the ground Allah formed every kind of things with those basic noises, and then Adam, and then brought them to Adam to see what he called them, or qara'a, or cry them. And how do you cry something? You cry them when you are in contact with the cry Quran. And so he cry Quran, and then he erupts, he moonsets, he silence, and then you repeat. After 6 times, then you receive the breeze or the blood of the Christ, or the language or the anointment. Now you are a human. Now you are someone that is supposed to go to church and masjid and mosque, and then you are using something like, it is in a way like a literacy. So many people say, I don't need the religion of Allah, only Allah. No, I forget about Shiva, Shova, Su, severing, destruction, okay? That deconstructs everything into the noises. No, I want something that can bring 2 things together and make out of them something, a third thing. And that only can be done by love, that can make an added value into something. For instance, my left hand and right hand are not conscious together. You put them together, you don't get to a talking human. You have to have life in it in order to get that, and that happens only through love. And so what is basically happening here is that Adam comes in contact with the cry qara'a of the Quran, and then he calls. And how he is calling or qara'ing or Quraning, but because he is in contact, he has been in contact with Quran, or in other words, he's been in contact with the shamaim, and from that's how we read that. That Allah taught to Adam the names, and or in other words, Allah has breathed into Adam, or allama al-Adam al-bayan. This is the teaching. The teaching is coming from the language is the breeze, and that is given to the carbon-based life form that is basically void from that. And so that's why using the original form of the language is coming from the holy and beauty and the order and the sacredness. And all of this is coming from, again, sharq or shriq or ishraq, which means literally sharq means east, dawn, dawning place. And so once you receive a light, then you can turn on a place, and then you can see different objects in that place, and then you can easily, but if you turn off all the lights, then there is nothing in it. But they call it unconditional love, they call it homogeneous love. Love is love, gender equal, gender neutral love, but it is not love retard. You are turning off the light and then you're calling it light. And so in other words, this qara'a or Quranic moon-disk that has the pomegranate, 144,000 pomegranates, the shabaki or the mesh or the network of these pomegranates around it, and then we are in the lower cone, and these are the word lines or the horizons that the Tiriptoroposi atraful arz nonaqesa, and the earth is being reduced from its surrounding, or the mind or the empty nous is becoming confined from its surrounding with the word lines or the aperture tarf Tiriptoroposi cognition. Now it is in contact with the higher cone. And so in BDCTN model of consciousness, these are the plane of experience. This can be a cockroach or a chimpanzee or a giraffe, and then or a dinosaur. And then once you tilt this plane in the bidirectional double connectivity neurological model of consciousness, if you tilt it enough, then this plane will get to an angle, to a degree that for the first time it will be able to go and pass from the parallel state of these word lines. And then after that, if the word lines want, if the higher cone wants, that's the mercy of Allah that wants the contact, as my brother said, to happen, of the alien contact, the language contact, the anointment happens, then you then the moon dawn or the moonrise will happen, or in other words, in the horizon, in the plane of the horizon of this plane of experience of you and me, the Christ appears and dawns, and then the moon or the book of life or the fire, the burning bush that Moses saw, comes into the extension of this plane that is extended from being in the lower cone into the future cone, to the higher cone, to the eternity. That has happened and is existing independent from the time landscape in which we are. And so here the first contact, or the contact of the third eye, or the alien contact with the Christ mothership is made. And from there we can tilt it more and more to go deeper and deeper, or higher and higher into divine levels. And so this first contact is called Isra, or Hebrewing, or Israing, or Oburing, or passing to the other side. Okay, this is where the passing of the tribe of the headed ones, or the guided ones, or the Yahudai ones can reach to the embark into the book of life, the Holy Spirit. We call it nowadays the terrorists, the Palestinian terrorists. And then from there the mirage will happen, the deepening, or from down here the direction over here changes. The up is toward here, and then the down is here. And so from here, the more the plane tilts, the more it will have intersection with the higher cone. And the more intersection you have, the more you are urujing or mi'rajing happens. Or the mi'raj means uruj, or arching, or heightening, or loftily elevating. And so the Isra and Miraj journey of the Prophet Muhammad happens in two parts. The first part is Isra, for reaching to the hardcover of the Book of Life, and then inside the Book of Life, inside the soft pages of the Book of Life, then you can gain elevation, go up, and then Prophet Muhammad goes all the way up, or even the Ezekiel or Abraham or whoever wants to receive, and then they go higher than Jabarut, they reach to Hesed or Chesidik, and then they come to the talking or the throat chakra, and at that chakra they sit, and then they start communicating with Allahi crown or the throne through the third eye or the ark that comprises of Christ, who is the ark, and then the four living beings, or the four Israfils, or the four cherubs, and the 24 elder hours that received the decree and tadbirat yudabbaru al-amr of Allah, and then they give it, pass it to the prophets, and then they receive those, and so this high deepening of the intersection part of the plane of experience, it is called miraging. But before getting to that mirage, here we want to make a mathematical correlation, and so we say the east or sharq shrieking, or the loudness of the what you hear is proportional. It's the mathematical sign for the proportional, or the correlation is in the direct correlation with the upward tilt of the plane of experience. And so in a way we say that east or the shepherd or the teacher is the upward Christward. Basically this is how our shepherds, our prophets, are our masters, the consciousness generators, the engines of the consciousness, that their frontier cortexes or their natsias or their third eyes have been catched by God, or the pots that their handles have been taken and dipped into the Salsabil, or the spring of life, and they have a little bit of life and anointment or olive oil in them, or the heartburn, and then they conscious, man, this is what that the time has already finished. We are all inna lillahi inna ilaihi raji'un. We are from the future. We are the aliens. And how we can become the alien? By alienating from ourselves and becoming friend with Allah. Not like these Samadhi scumbags going backward, becoming friend with your root chakra, and then here and then talk about consciousness. Not like these orangutan chimpanzees, charlatans of the Advaita school of Hinduism, or the Zen zombies, or the Baha'i baboons that mix the Krishna curses, Karachi fart, and the abomination, and Shakti Shikutsi Sakat, burnt fuel with the divinity, and then they go, oh, I made a nice mishmash. Mix of the religions, that's the yubaddalul haqq bil batil, and that kind of things, or those kind of things that all of these Orang will. No, I'm talking about here the real shepherds. I'm talking about the genuine Christ accredited, Christ class cup accredited shepherds. Okay, in them we can say that is to the power of the shepherd is equal to the up Christward. The more sharq shriek, the louder the luminosity gets of the lessons, the more you are going toward the east, in the Dead Sea, or in the Bakwa of the blank black hole.